Hello and a very good evening to you. I hope you had a productive Monday. Well, it's the beginning of a new week, but the end of a 60-day countdown. That's right, it's D-Day today. The President's 60-day deadline for action by the EACC expires tonight at midnight. And on KTN Prime, we review the entire process and performance of the government's fight against corruption. Now, my colleague Yvonne Okwara will be talking to the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, Nicholas Gumbo, and the national coordinator of the Institute for Social Accountability, Wanjiru Gikonyo. Now, we'd like to invite you to add your voice to this conversation. The hashtag we're using tonight is Graft Diaries. Make sure you get in touch and tell us whether you're satisfied that the government is walking the talk when it comes to fighting corruption. This is comprehensive coverage of the Graft Diaries on KTN Prime, the way only we can. We begin with the day's highlights.
Msifikirie sisi ni wajinga ati mumeweka hapo 100 million shillings e-procurement na uko na budget ya 30 billion.
Government freezes 200 billion shilling tenders in graft purge. And a recommendation to charge Kambi and Kamau with a temporary reprieve for Ngilu.
I would wish to leave it to the process because it has other implications.
Plus, just how credible is the EACC with all the apparent internal intrigues?
As much as the political class is showing us that they are trying to fight corruption, they are going behind the doors to play their gimmicks.
Wamejaribu lakini bado sababu wamepatikana wana makosa na bado hawajapelekwa kotini.
And Kenyans voice their opinion on the government's fight against corruption. Once again, thank you for watching KTN Prime. I'm Nancy Kachungira, and William Silla is our sign language interpreter. Now, the government has frozen tenders worth 200 billion shillings after they were procured manually. This is a move that's affected at least 7 ministries, and it comes after the 1-week ultimatum that was given to cabinet secretaries by President Uhuru Kenyatta to move to the e-procurement system. That's after it expired. KTN's Ian Wafula now reports.
Cabinet secretaries, when we say we must be on e-procurement, mjue ya kwamba the 2-week notice na muli receive your memos from the PS Treasury, and I am following it myself. Those who are not on it.
When it rains, it pours. And this time it poured on 7 ministries within the Jubilee government. Turns out the tenders worth 286 billion shillings had been approved manually in a system that has through time been marred by some of the worst corruption scandals witnessed in the country. Yet it has been 10 months since the government launched the e-procurement system.
Na msifikirie sisi ni wajinga ati mumeweka hapo 100 million shillings e-procurement na uko na budget ya 30 billion. Alafu useme mimi nimemaliza. Hujamaliza.
Details as to which ministries had been affected by what is now being termed as quote-unquote Operation Big Broom are still scanty, and neither is it clear whether the accounting officers within the respective ministries have been sent home as directed by the President. It was the President's remarks during the launch of the new terminals at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on the 15th of May that brought to the fore the flaws and uneconomical decisions of tenders made within ministries and parastatals. The Kenya Airports Authority had hired 5 buses at a cost of 10 million shillings.
Jamani, si ukuje mimi nikupatie basi ya NYS at 100,000. Yeah? Hii mambo ya wizi lazima tusimamishe. Na wale ambao wanafanya mambo kama hiyo, we cannot sustain this. We must utilize the resources that we are given properly.
The freezing of tenders form part of the Jubilee's administration's initiative in fighting corruption that has become the government's pain in the flesh. Ian Wafula, KTN.
Well, from that development, we go to the latest coming out of Integrity Center. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission wants suspended cabinet secretaries Michael Kamau and Kazungu Kambi charged over corruption. The recommendation is contained in 4 corruption files that the EACC forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions, Carriage, this morning. Now, the corruption file on suspended Lands Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu may be closed, while her agriculture counterpart, Felix Koskei, could take the witness stand in a case involving the Kenya Veterinary Vaccines Production Institute. That's if the DPP accepts the EACC's recommendations.
When the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission announced it would be forwarding to the Director of Public Prosecutions corruption files against 4 suspended cabinet secretaries.
That one I would wish to leave it to the process because it has other implications.
It was tight-lipped on its recommendations to DPP Keriako Tobiko. Now, the corruption files on 4 suspended cabinet secretaries, Michael Kamau, Charity Ngilu, Kazungu Kambi and Felix Koskei, are with the DPP, and the EACC's recommendations are public. The EACC wants suspended Transport Cabinet Secretary Michael Kamau charged in court. The allegations: massive embezzlement of funds through collusion with the Kundang Singh Construction Company Limited resident engineer and other public servants to trash a consultant's design and redesigning the Kamukuiwa, Kaptama, Kapsokoni, Kimilili Road without following proper procedures. Kamau is facing 2 other cases which are still under investigation by the EACC. Suspended Labour Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi may also end up in court if the DPP accepts EACC's recommendation. The EACC wants Kambi charged over allegations of irregular appointment of Andrew Gishamba Moigai and Veska Jepkemboi Kangongo as members of the NSSF board. Another case against Kambi is still under probe. Suspended Lands Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu may get a temporary reprieve in one of the 3 cases against her. The EACC has recommended to the DPP to close her inquiry file of allegations that she conspired with Evanson Waitiki and valuers to defraud the government of 110 million shillings by overstating the value of land earmarked for purchase by the government in Mombasa. Suspended Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Felix Koskei has no charges recommended against him over allegations of irregular leasing of the Kenya Veterinary Production Institute land in Tigoni. But the EACC wants him to take the witness stand when the Kevavapi MD is charged. Another inquiry against Koskei over allegations of secret allocation of permits to import sugar is ongoing. DPP Keriako Tobiko says the files are being independently reviewed and decisions will be made shortly. Rita Tinina, KTN.
So back in March, when the president made this unprecedented move and gave the EACC an ultimatum of 60 days to deal with over 100 names on a list of shame, many people called it historic. But is this 60 days ending with as much fanfare as it began? Let's take a look at just what has happened over the last 60 days and where we are now. Well, today is D-Day, and what was supposed to happen today is the EACC was supposed to indicate whether 175 officials, including 5 cabinet secretaries, will return to office or be prosecuted. So that's what we were supposed to find out today. And what's been going on over the last 60 days is that a joint task force was formed. This is between the EACC, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations as well. And they've been investigating these claims and looking through these files. Now, another thing that is interesting that has happened, these are the people who have so far appeared at the EACC and been questioned. 4 principal secretaries, 2 senators, including Siaya Senator James Orengo and Nairobi Senator Mike Sonko. 12 governors have also been grilled. 11 senior government officials and various heads of parastatals have been grilled. That's what the EACC has been up to. It hasn't been an exactly smooth road for this body, though. As you know, 3 EACC commissioners did resign. This definitely put a wrinkle in this process. And now the DPP doesn't seem to be reading from the same script as the EACC. He says that 10 of the reviewed files have been withheld by EACC for reasons that are not known to him. And as late as Thursday, the EACC was insisting that they would beat the deadline, while the DPP was saying that there is no way that is possible. So it does seem like there is a bit of a miscommunication there between the two. So definitely not a smooth process it has been so far. But let's take a look at what files have been completed. Well, the high-profile ones include the CS for Transport, Michael Kamau, and the Labour CS, Kazungu Kambi. As we saw in that story just now, it has been recommended by the EACC that these two face abuse of office charges. So it will depend on what the DPP has to say about that, whether that will go forward. But the EACC has also recommended that the Land CS charity Ngilu have her case closed. CS Agriculture Felix Koske not as lucky. He's been shortlisted as a witness, while Energy CS Davis Chuchir has his cases still ongoing. He's still being investigated. And the EACC also have mentioned that the Secretary to the Cabinet, Francis Kimemia, is not yet cleared. His investigation is still going on. And they've recently added Electoral Commission Chairman Isaac Hassan to the list of those to be investigated. So there's still definitely a lot of activity going on. But let's look at the numbers now. 175 cases were supposed to be reviewed. The EACC says it has finalized investigations of how many? 56, which means there's 119 cases that are yet to be looked at. And 21 of those 56 cases, the EACC say they have forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions. They say that 19 public officers have been charged and 29 public officers are to be arraigned in coming days. And they say the other cases are undergoing evidence analysis. And they've now written to the President saying they need more time. The 60 days were just not enough. Let's look at this quote from Halake Wako. He says that it could not be possible to finalize all the matters within 60 days. And that pretty much, for the EACC, sums up where we are at the end of the 60 days. But if we look at what the President did say much earlier on, when he gave this ultimatum, he said, this should not be an open-ended process. Justice must be expeditious, as justice delayed is justice denied. Well, of course, the hope is that this does not become a self-fulfilling prophecy, considering that a lot of the things that were supposed to happen have not happened yet. And that's where we are 60 days after this ultimatum was given. The countdown is over. And honestly, there's not that much to show for it. The EACC is asking for more time. We'll see how that goes. Related to that, I did mention the President's speech. 60 days since the President did deliver that hard-hitting speech on the state of the nation, hitting even harder on graft. Now here's KTN's Wilson Buru with the highlights of that particular speech.
Fellow Kenyans, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen,
60 days ago today, on March 26th, President Uhuru Kenyatta delivered his State of the Nation address to a joint sitting of Parliament. In the speech, which lasted an hour and 11 minutes, the President dedicated his last 12 minutes of that speech on corruption, and his government's assessment of this vice was quite clear.
Corruption is the greatest threat to our security, fundamental rights, and social-economic transformation.
Over the 12 minutes, the President would reiterate his government's commitment in the fight against graft, outline what his administration has been dealing with in terms of curbing the vice.
I have continuously engaged with all institutions charged with the responsibility to deal with corruption and firmly expressed my expectation
and castigate the said institutions for not doing enough, specifically calling out the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which at that time was facing in-house squabbles.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is now embroiled in infighting and finger-pointing, a state of affairs likely to cripple the investigative capacity of the institution, with a likely outcome of subverting the course of justice.
The president would then give directives on how he believed this vice that has crippled so many government operations since independence would best be nipped once and for all. He started by reminding public servants and constitutional office holders of their responsibility to uphold the highest standards of ethics. He then directed the Attorney General to ensure that proper legislation is in place for expedited hearing and completion of corruption cases.
The Council must ensure the efficient and speedy processing of corruption-related cases, including hearing such cases on a daily basis.
Then he dropped the bombshell.
I also hereby direct that all officials of the national and county governments that are adversely mentioned in this report, whether you are a cabinet secretary, principal secretary, or chief executive of a state institution, to immediately step aside.
Since then, 5 cabinet secretaries have stepped aside and investigations kicked off into the alleged allegations. But also in the same period, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has gone through an internal war that left it without a chairman and 2 commissioners who all cited the infighting as creating unfavorable working conditions. That same commission has now asked for more time to prosecute all those on the list of shame, but adds that the charges against the CSs are ready. Wilson Buru, KTN Prime.
So since that speech, some action has been taken, but whether that's enough or not is rather debatable. And do you know what else is debatable? Well, it's the integrity of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, ironically enough. KTN's Edith Kimani brings us an insight into a commission that has been embroiled in internal intrigues, even as it maintains a bold face in public.
25th of March this year, exactly 60 days ago, President Uhuru Kenyatta took an unprecedented approach in the fight against graft. In his hands, a report by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and it contained names of government officials implicated in corruption, and that was to be investigated in 60 days. Those 60 days are now over, and in a strange and ironic twist, it appears that it's the commission rather than individuals in the list of shame that find themselves, or rather that finds itself in a precarious situation. See, according to the Commission, 56 out of the original 124 cases were investigated, with 21 of those files making it to the Director of Public Prosecutions. 21 doesn't sound like much, but if we revisit the events following the tabling of that report in Parliament, then you may end up surprised that any cases at all were investigated. Let's go down memory lane, shall we? March 31st, Jane Onsongo, at the time serving as one of the EACC commissioners, resigns. It may have gone unnoticed, except her resignation came just 5 days after the president asked the EACC to investigate top government officials who were implicated in graft. Her reasons for the exit? Now, that's where everybody's eyebrows were raised.
I have come to the realization that the commission, as currently constituted, may not be able to discharge its mandate. The events of the past few weeks have crystallized this view.
Shocking? Perhaps. But the country may have seen this resignation coming. She had, after all, written to the president together with her colleague and Deputy EACC Commissioner Irene Keino, saying they did not think their chairman, Mumo Matemu, was capable of fighting corruption. But that was in September of last year. Let's come back to the events of the last 3 months. April 1st, Irene Keino, supported by the same chairman she had expressed lack of confidence in, was to make this claim.
I asked for the agenda of the meeting and was told that Professor Onsongo had agreed to resign. I was also requested to resign and be given a new job as Deputy Ambassador to Brazil, which I flatly declined.
Almost a month after that, Parliament passes a motion to eject both Keino and Matemu from office. The 2 are suspended. A day later, a 4-member tribunal is constituted to look into a litany of claims against the 2, including accusations of gross violation of laws and unethical conduct during their time in office. 5 days after the tribunal is set up, Keino resigns, and not long after, Matemu steps away from his position as chair of the EACC, leaving Halake Wako, the commission's CEO, at the helm. All these intrigues unraveled in the first 40 of the 60 days that the commission had to investigate the list of shame. Were they effectively doing their job? Maybe not, but they were getting paid for it anyway. According to the approved remuneration structure for the EACC, a commissioner earns 685,000 shillings a month. The vice chairperson takes home 694,000 and the chairman's pay is 750,000. If we go by that figure, it means that every year the country is spending an average 25.5 million shillings on 3 people alone. Now look, these salaries have been set by a constitutional body and we have no reason to speak out against them. But is the country getting value for its money? Well, in the financial year 2013-14, for example, Treasury allocated 1.2 billion to the Commission that year. And they wrote in their annual report that they had received over 4,000 complaints. Of these, 68 made it to the DPP. Only 43 were given the green light for prosecution, with 17 cases dropped for lack of evidence. It's not documented how many, if at all, there were any prosecutions which led to jail time. Now, the EACC's core mandate is to combat and prevent corruption in the country. Yet, this is an organization where staff members hired prior to December of 2013 reportedly earn more than is recommended by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. According to a 2012-2013 audit report, the Commission is yet to recover 5.8 million shillings spent on irregular personal allowances to a former chief executive. The same audit report shows that the Commission at one point paid as much as 2.9 million shillings on computer cartridge toners that were never delivered. Sure, the events may have happened prior to the fresh terms that began in 2013, but internally would be a really good place to start when cleaning house, especially when that house is made of glass. Edith Kimani for KTN.
Of course, the big topic tonight is Graft Diaries. That's the hashtag you can use to get in touch with us on Twitter and let us know what you think about the government's performance when it comes to dealing with graft. Well, earlier on, we went onto the streets to find out just what people think. Take a look.
There's still a lot more to be done as per the corruption issue because it's killing this country.
Those people who are in the missing list, which were being told by the former chairman of the AntiCorruption, Matemu, and her debut. Yeah, we want to know those names who were missing there.
Hizo siku ni chache sana, ongezee siku kadhaa ndo wafanye uchunguzi sana.
The cabinet secretaries or any other person who has been at least named or mentioned in graft cases should be investigated and be cleared by the court, but not on a technicality.
As much as the political class is showing us that they're trying to fight corruption, they are going behind the doors to play their gimmicks, while at the same time they are not delivering on their mandate.
Tangu corruption tulianza kusikia habari ya corruption, hakuna hata mtu mmoja mkubwa ambayo kina ministers kina OPS ambayo tushawahi kusikia wamefungwa. Wako huko wanatembea, lakini mwananchi wa kawaida afanye kosa dogo unamsikia amefungwa miaka kadhaa. Kwa hivyo hata hiyo corruption hatuoni kama kuna kitu itafanyika.
It's the 25th of May. Welcome to KTN Business. I'm Joy Doreen Bira. The National Treasury has signed a 10.4 billion shillings grant with the African Development Bank for the construction of a dual carriage road in Mombasa's Mariakani area. The road expansion project is part of the congestion plan for the county that has seen traffic grind to a halt with thousands of trucks driving through. An estimated 4,000 trucks use the road daily, causing massive traffic in Mombasa and delaying shipment of goods to the East African region. The deal with African Development Bank will see the government construct the first 11 kilometers of the 40 kilometers road section with plans to ease movement from the port.
I think this will go a long way again to ease congestion in the Mariakani route, which we are informed now that there are about 6,000 trucks leaving the port, and this is creating a lot of congestion. So I think if we implement this project very speedily, we'll achieve a lot of benefits once all this is done. So.
Commercial chicken farming in Kenya has over the years been dominated by exotic chicken farming due to its high production rate. However, the trend is slowly changing to indigenous or kienyeji chicken. This change in preference has created a solid business case for farmers looking to cash in on demand for indigenous taste for chicken. KTN's Phil Keitani reports.
For many years, Poultry farmers in Kenya have been rearing exotic breeds for commercial purposes. The birds, which lay hundreds of eggs annually, have been the darling of many farmers. But time seems to be up for these exotic breeds as Kenyan farmers such as Michael Njoroge embrace indigenous chicken farming that are considered not only hardy but offer better returns.
I have two breeds, and the two breeds, there is the breed called Kuroira, improved kienyeji chicken, and that is from Uganda. I have about 50 of them here. I also have the Kenyan improved breed from Carriage. It's called the Carriage improved kienyeji chicken.
Given the pent-up demand for kienyeji chicken, most farmers have opted to rear them, but it has not been easy. Kienyeji chicken are less expensive to maintain, but given that they take longer time to mature, on average, it takes 6 months before it's ready for slaughter or sell, compared to 4 months it takes the exotic chicken. Njoroge, however, says it is a labor of love that is finally paying off.
This cock I'm holding here is Kuroira cock. It's an improved kienyeji, as you can see. It attains a weight of 3.5 kg in 4.5 months.
While the eggs of the exotic birds go between 10 and 12 shillings each, those of kienyeji chicken are sold for between 15 and 20 shillings. A kienyeji chicken lays an average of 250 eggs annually, while exotic birds lay 300 eggs. Farmers, however, noted that the difference is recouped from the low management cost offered by the former. For instance, one can keep the kienyeji chicken under the free range and let them forage for food from the soil.
Our customers mainly prefer to carry 1 month-old chicks. Yes, the reason being, especially those without experience in brooding.
Mature kienyeji birds kept for meat go for between 1,000 shillings and 1,400 shillings depending on the size. Exotic broilers, on the other hand, are sold for an average of 500 shillings. The introduction of this new improved kienyeji breed will now enable chicken farmers from across the country earn more because this breed matures faster, produce more, and even earn much more when it hits the market. Philip Keitang, KTN, from Kiambu County.
Thanks, Philip, for that report. Now, Choice Microfinance Bank becomes the 11th institution to be licensed by the central bank, underlying the growth of microlenders in the country. The Rongai-based microfinance institution launched with an estimated 300 million shillings valuation as it seeks to carve a niche for itself. Unlike most lenders in its categories, Choice will be targeting pastoralist communities to offer financial services. Marginalized communities and institutions, including pastoralist communities and micro, small and medium enterprises, still represent a large percentage of the unbanked population in Kenya. When licensing the microfinance bank, the central bank stressed that it will continually support reforms to develop effective legal, regulatory and supervisory frameworks that support innovations to enhance the development of MSE financing and growth. Choice will look to deepen its deposit and loan portfolio in the first 3 years, with a target to have 10 branches within that period.
Have pledged to give them ownership of our company, and the only way we can do that is to allow them to purchase shares that will be tabulated fairly shortly, and once they own their own institution, they will have a say in terms of how they want to be served.
According to our feasibility study and what we found out that people are really in need of loans, small loans, micro loans, and we realized that the businesses are suffering. So that's a need that we've already identified as we did our study. Yeah.
And who are the gainers and losers at the NSC today? And also, how did the Kenya shilling perform? Let's take a look.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to tonight's edition of KTN Sports. My name is Lynn Washira, and we kick off the bulletin in matters athletics. We are reigning world record holder Dennis Kimeto and former world record holder Wilson Kipsang will race each other again this August after they were named in Kenya's World Athletics Championships marathon team. The two marathon giants who clashed at the London Marathon last month will headline the marathon team to the 2015 World Athletics Championships in Beijing. This is the first time Dennis Kimeto has made the Kenyan team, while Kipsang will be donning the national colors for the third time after his World Half Marathon and London Olympics appearance, where he won a bronze medal. Hamburg Marathon champion Lucas Rotich and Paris Marathon champion Marco Ril, Felix Kiprotich and Lucas Kanda will complete the Kenyan provisional team that will be charged with the responsibility to bring the world title home. Uganda's Moses Kiprotich is the current world champion. In the women's race, two-time world champion Edna Kiplagat has an opportunity to bag a third consecutive title. And moving on, former world cross-country champion Lorna Kiplagat led athletes in donating cash and goods to former Garissa University College students who have since reported to the Moi University main campus in Eldoret. Lorna Kiplagat, Florence Kiplagat and Alfred Kirwa joined hands to come to the rescue of over 596 students from the Garissa University College who have so far reported to the institution. 57 are yet to report. This is after the deadly attack that left tens of students dead and scores injured. The university was closed indefinitely, prompting the relocation. The three athletes paid a courtesy call to the Moi University Vice Chancellor's office, where they made a cash donation of Kenya shillings 200,000 and goods of a similar amount. The school is still calling upon well-wishers to offer their support and help the students settle down.
Received on behalf of Moi University. Received with a lot of appreciation. Sanitary towels. Okay. Yes.
We just heard the day before, actually the day before yesterday, how the students are going through. And we said, because we are just next door neighbors, it would be appropriate if we can make this message clear to people, like these kids are, students are going through tough times and they need our help. We have come with a little bit that we had.
And moving on, South Coast continues to lag behind in sports despite being naturally gifted with beaches that could be used for beach football and volleyball. Lack of infrastructure and mismanagement has also made it virtually impossible for sports to take a front seat. Hassan Juma reports.
Wachezaji wa huku hatuna ajira, ni kuwa wewe uende ukajitafutie riziki alafu natekana uingie kwa mchezo au kwa mazoezi.
Viongozi kule mashinani au kule nyanjani ambao wamebaki wametuchupa sana. Ile hali mchezo ambao tunacheza sisi ni ile tunacheza mpira bora mpira kuliko mpira bora.
Shanga Ibrahim Hassan and Bakari Salimira, the larger coastal society of a disappointed youth. They only hold onto memories of years gone by when the region was a sporting powerhouse. Save for schools like Kwa and Shimba Hills, the only thing that brings youths together here are self-sponsored tournaments. And when the tournaments end, they are left to spectate as others enjoy league status.
Sports has really taken a backseat, in compared to other counties, compared to the rest of the country. We hardly hear of any teams worthwhile in the Premier League coming from Kwale or the coast in general.
Coast has some of the best beaches in the world. However, the region cannot boast of the best talents in beach football and volleyball. Most leaders feel funds from CDF should have been channeled to developing sports within the area, since through such social activities, drug menace at the coast can be contained.
Viongozi wale ambao wamechaguliwa na wako na hazina kama hizo wako tayari kusaidia vijana kama hawa, ila tu wanawataka kitambo wale wameingia katika mambo yao ya kisiasa nao watumie.
Lack of infrastructure has contributed to the county's dwindling standards. With the corporate world not taking a keen interest in sports, what remains are small tournaments that do not last long enough.
Most of the time we put up these tournaments because we want to keep the youth busy.
There is lack of nurturing of talent, because if you see, like in other countries, what they do is that they start very early looking for young talents, and then they put these academies where they nurture the talents up to by the time they reach 15, 16 years old, then they are already ready to join the big teams.
Political leaders within the area hope things will change for the better with the devolved system of government taking the leading role.
When a team wins, let's give them a project on top of the trophy. Let's give them a project. Then that way we're actually helping the community.
Hassan Juma, KTN Sports.
Reigning world 800 meters champion Eunice Sum was among the elite athletes who skipped the Athletics Kenya track and field meeting held at the Kipchoge Keino Stadium over the weekend. Sum, who won her first race of the season at the Shanghai Diamond League, disclosed that she will be running cautiously this year to keep fatigue at bay ahead of the World Athletics Championships, where she hopes to defend her title.
Like last year, I started in Australia. So when you saw my season at the end of my season, I was a little bit tired, but this year with my coach, I'm planning to reduce maybe some races, maybe to run some few diamond leagues to focus more on the World Championship. I think there's much pressure now that we are going for the World Championship. I think people are expecting you to perform like the way I did. And also, you know, there's the Americans over there, and they are really fighting for it. We have my friends here, Janet and Agatha. But I think when the time comes, I'll be ready.
Well, this is where we wrap it up, but let's remind you of our big Q. Tonight we gave you the opportunity to weigh in on Graft Diaries. That's the hashtag we were using. And we were asking you whether you are satisfied with the action that the government has taken against corruption. Here's an SMS from Joseph Nyamondo in Kasarani. You say the president is doing a good job on fighting corruption. I love him for that. All other leaders should look at him as an example. Let's stop corruption and let's build Kenya together. Leonard Otieno says on Twitter, the president is just playing a political game that he knows will act as a sympathy vote when he needs it. David Atari says, I prefer to look at the positives that are being achieved so far regardless of the serious challenge. And Twahir in Mombasa, you sent in an SMS, you say the fight is selective, not much has been done. Agreeing with one of our interviewees this evening there about that fight against graft being rather selective. Well, you can continue this conversation. Keep it going on Twitter. Use the hashtag Graft Diaries. Thank you so much for making time for KTN Prime this evening. William Silla was our sign language interpreter. I'm Nancy Kachingira. Have a good night, a great day tomorrow, and we'll see you later.